Hey Finxters, welcome back. Previously we learned how simple linear regression works. Now it's time to learn how we can implement simple linear regression using Python. So before we proceed further, let's have a look at the dataset that we are going to use in order to implement our simple linear regression algorithm. In this dataset, we have couple of fields, or you may say couple of columns. The first column represents the years of experience for a given individual in a company, while the second column represents the salary of that individual based on his experience. So by now it might be clear to you that the years of experience is our independent variable, while the salary represents the dependent variable. This is because the salary depends on the years of experience. Now let's move on to our coding screen and see how simple linear regression works with the help of Python. In order to implement our algorithm, let us break it down into 6 parts. In that way, it would be easier for us to understand the logic that works behind our code. And also I have a good news for you. If you have already covered the data pre-processing section, then in that case, you would not have to worry about the first 3 steps that we are going to follow. In case you haven't gone through the data pre-processing section, I request you to go through the data pre-processing lectures and then come back to this lecture and follow the next steps. Because the first steps that we are going to implement here have already been explained in the previous data pre-processing section. I will also provide a link in the description so that you may follow those videos and things become easier for you. So let us begin our code. The first and the foremost step is to import the necessary libraries. So the most important libraries that we need are the NumPy library, the Matplotlib library, and the Pandas library. So let us go ahead and copy these libraries and simply paste them in our simple linear regression algorithm. And now it's time to import the dataset. Now before we can import our dataset, let us go ahead and copy it and paste it within our project folder. So the name of our dataset is salary underscore data, and I'm going to keep this as it is. Okay. And now we have successfully pasted our salary underscore data file within our project folder. And now it's time to import our data set. And yet again, this step is quite similar to the step that we performed in the data pre-processing section. The only change that we will have to make is to change the name of our data set. So let us copy the piece of code that we need. And now let's paste it here. And now let's change the name of our data set. We are using the data set by the name salary underscore data. And that's all. Yet again, I would like to mention, if you have any problem in this step, please go back and watch the video where I explained how we import the data set. Our third step is to split the data set into the training set and the test set. We have learned this previously as well. So let's go ahead and copy the required piece of code and then simply paste it in our algorithm. Now you might be wondering why we have an error here. The simple reason behind this is we need to import the required library and then we would resolve our error. So do you remember the name of the library? It's our all important library scikit-learn. So we are going to import the train test split function from our scikit-learn library. So let's go ahead and quickly import that. And there we go. We have successfully imported the train test split function from the model selection module of our scikit-learn library. And now as you can see, we have successfully resolved our error. Okay, we are all set with our first 3 steps, and we really didn't have to worry much about it because we already learned these steps previously. Now let's move on to the next step. In the fourth step, we are going to train our simple linear regression model using the training set. You know, the best part here is we have an amazing library at our disposal. Yes, I'm talking about the scikit-learn library. This library will help you to build your model in a flash. All you have to do is to import a certain class from a certain module of this library. So let us go ahead and let's have a look at the class which is going to help us to build our model. From scikit-learn, and then I need a certain module which goes by the name linear model. And from this module, I'm going to import the class which is going to help us to build our model. And the name of this class is linear regression. And that's it. Now the model that we are going to build is going to be an instance of this class itself. That is, it is going to be an object of the linear regression class. Hence, let's go ahead and create our object. So I'm going to name it regression underscore object. And then let's create our object with the help of the name of the class. And then let's use our parentheses. Usually you might have to feed in certain parameters within these parentheses. However, in this case, we do not have to think about any parameter because this is all we need to do to create our linear regression object. And that's it. We have successfully created our linear regression object. Of course, now we have to train our model. I mean that we have created or we have built our model, but now we need to train it. And yet again, the linear regression class of our scikit-learn library is going to help us because it consists of certain methods which allows us to not only train our model based on the training set, but it also has certain functions which allows us to predict results with the help of our test set. So as of now, we are going to train our model based on our training set. So the function within the linear regression class that helps us to train our model is known as the fit function. So let us go ahead and train our model with the help of the fit function. In order to do that, we need the object itself, dot, and then the fit function. And within this fit function, we need to pass in couple of parameters. So what would be the parameters that we need to feed into this fit function? These are going to be x underscore train and y underscore train. So just a reminder, x underscore train is our matrix of features which consists of the independent variable data within the training set, while y underscore train is our dependent variable vector which consists the data within the dependent variable. So let us go ahead and quickly feed these parameters within our fit function, x underscore train and y underscore train. And you know what? You have already created your first model. So a big congratulations to you, and you are all set to go ahead and test your model now. Hence, our next task is to test our model. As I already mentioned previously, that the linear regression class has certain methods which help our model to predict results based on test data, and this function is known as the predict function. So the fit function helps us to train our model, while the predict function will help us or will help our model to predict results based on test data. So let us go ahead and use our predict function. In order to do that, we need our regression object, dot, and then our predict function. And now within this predict function, we have to feed in certain parameters. And can you guess what could be the parameter in this case? To understand that, let us move on to our data set. And now, as you can see that we have 30 sets of data within our data set. So if you look, we have splitted our data set in a way that 20% of the data will lie in the test set, while 80% of the data will lie in the training set. So 20% of 30 would be 6. So 6 observations would lie within the test set. Hence, let us assume that the last 6 observations are in our test set. Now the task of our model is to predict the output based on these 6 observations. So that means we have to feed in the independent variable, which happens to be the years of experience in this case, and based on the years of experience our model will predict the salaries. Now just a note here, these are the salaries that are already present in our data set. This is not what our model will predict. The predicted values may or may not be exactly as present in our data set, and that's what we are going to visualize in the next steps, where we are going to compare the actual results to the predicted results of our model. So let us go ahead and pass x underscore test within our predict function. So this means we only passed the years of experience contained within the test set, and now our model will predict the output based on this data. So I'm going to store it in another variable which I'm going to name y underscore predicted. So we are all set now, and it's now time to visualize the predicted results, wherein we are going to compare the actual outputs to the predicted outputs present in our test set as well as in our training set. So please join me in the next lecture, where I am going to explain you how you can plot and compare the actual output and the predicted output with the help of a scatter plot.